Welcome to the Muscle Building Mastery Podcast, where guys that want to build muscle come to learn how to do it properly. We understand that there's more to building muscle than mindlessly throwing weights around and chugging mass gainer shakes. We're not interested in quick fixes or anabolic assistance. We're interested in mastering the art, science and skill set required to stack on real muscle and strength. My name's Andy Clements, and for the last 12 years I've devoted my life to figuring out how guys like us who don't have amazing genetics, don't have 5 hours a day to spend in the gym, and don't want to take steroids as a shortcut can build insane amounts of muscle and strength in weeks and months, not years and decades. This podcast is the result of all the lessons I've learned along the way, and it will give you the blueprint to building more muscle in less time. To get you started, head to www.musclebuildingmastery.net to download your free 6-week workout plan. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Muscle Building Mastery Podcast. My name's Andy Clements. This is episode number 60, I believe. It's a little while since I did the last one, so apologies for the delay. I've been very busy coaching people, getting amazing results, and helping people build muscle, lose fat, and get their confidence back, and different fun stuff like that. But I'm back now. We're going to do a little bit more often with the podcast, getting a bit better habit with this podcast and give you guys some cool information to help you build muscle. If you want the next step in this stuff before I get into this podcast today, then go to trainingmastery.net/join, where I'm keeping the price of my biggest ever video course with training, and there's some nutrition stuff in there as well, and there's some health and sleep and different recovery stuff in there that we're going to talk about today, for just £37, which is crazy low considering people pay hundreds of pounds for this stuff. And for my American friends or Australian friends or people who are using all the different forms of currency, that's a lot more, so it's like thousands of dollars, I guess. So it's literally 37. It's less than a single PT session. So that's my little announcement for the start. So what I want to do today is I want to talk to you a little bit about the key to smashing harder workouts for muscle growth. Now, I alluded to a bit about what this is about a minute ago, but let me get stuck into what I want to talk to you about here. Because most people focus on training harder, digging deeper, pushing further, giving themselves endless amounts of punishment that, just putting their physical body through whatever it can manage, whatever it can take, and just smashing it day in, day out, and just viewing like training as this punishment, right? And eventually, if you keep smashing your body through this punishment, it's like getting a car and putting it in second gear and ramming it on the motorway. You know what I mean? It's like trying to take it up 70 miles an hour in second gear. You're going to accelerate pretty fast, but eventually you're going to start burning that engine out. You're going to start racking up the injuries. You're going to start having strength declining. You're going to start getting demotivated and mentally fatigued from it, right? Because you're just smashing yourself through. This is exactly what happened to me. This is how I know this stuff, right? I mean, you guys know, if you've been listening for a while, that most of the stories come from my fuck-ups, right? They come from me doing stupid stuff, learning, okay, that's not the way to do it, and then figuring out the way to do it through research and experimentation and things like that, okay? So this is what happened to me. I used to smash myself through workouts daily, at least daily. Like sometimes I went through phases of doing it twice daily. I used to train like 10 to 14 times a week, right? So I used to train like twice a day most days. And I was smashing myself through the hardest workouts I could, like as many reps with the heaviest weight I could muster, with ridiculous amount of sets, and just smashing myself through just stupid workouts for no reason. Just because I thought that was how you had to train to grow. This is the way I saw IFBB Pro bodybuilders training. They were doing twice a day sessions, and sometimes doing 3 times a day sessions. And so I was like, oh, well, okay, I'll do that, because they obviously know a thing or two about building muscle, so I'll copy them. And all it did, was just leave me exhausted. Like physically exhausted, but also mentally exhausted. Like my motivation just went through the floor. I just got so sick of being in the gym, and I love the gym. I love training, but I just got so sick of seeing dumbbells and barbells and machines, and I want to walk away from the whole thing. You know what I mean? Because I was just exhausted with it. I was just battered. I just put myself through so much punishment that I just didn't want to do it anymore. Now, my injuries started to pile up as well, and I've spoke about some of them on these podcasts before. I had an excruciating lower back injury, I think in 2015, which was a result of this. It was a result of some other things as well, like faulty biomechanics and poor exercise technique and things like that. But it was also a result of me just smashing myself through the most grueling workouts I possibly could, and it was just stupid, and I ended up just getting injured. I ended up getting that back injury, shoulder injuries, knee injuries, hip injuries. I've had ankle injuries. I've had so many injuries. Like nobody should have been through the amount of injuries that I've had, but they've been my biggest teacher in many ways as well, right? My energy started declining. I even ended up losing money at one point because I was spending all my energy on this training stuff. I had no energy to put into my business, to put into my work, to focus. And I was just depleted. I had just nothing left. And I know it sounds dramatic, but this is literally the state I put myself in, right? And I did it deliberately. And I didn't put myself in that state deliberately, but I deliberately went after the hardest workouts because I thought that was the only way to grow. And I was very, very wrong. So this went on for months on end, I would say, and I couldn't understand why I wasn't progressing. If anything, I was regressing. The whole point of this was to push myself to grow muscle, to build strength, to be a bigger guy. Do you know what I mean? And I wasn't growing. I was actually shrinking, I was losing weight. And I was declining in strength. I couldn't lift the same amount of weight as I could, a few weeks earlier, a couple of months earlier, And I was smashing myself through the hardest workouts possible. And I was just like, what's going on? What do I have to do to build muscle, to grow? And eventually, after, a few months of doing this stuff and pushing myself to this level, I stopped being able to push myself that hard. I stopped being able to, find that extra gear in my head to push myself through a hard workout. And, my body and my mind started to decline and I got sick. And I ended up being, laid up in bed with, whatever it was, years ago. It wasn't, the C word, the virus that we all know not to speak its name. but it was whatever was going around, because my immune system was so compromised trying to deal with all this punishment I was giving it. I got whatever it was, right, that I had, like some, bug or flu or whatever. And it was a couple of weeks I was laid up in bed. And, that was the first time that I stopped, and I was like, because my body had reached burnout and I was forced to slow myself down. Does that make sense? Like I couldn't keep going because my body was just like, if you're not going to slow down, I'm going to slow you down, basically, right? And I'd love to say this was like a one-time thing. I would love to say, okay, I learnt my lesson after one time. I didn't, Over the course of a couple of years, I probably tried this a few times, over the course maybe 2013 to 2014, 15, on and off. I tried this a few times before I finally learnt my lesson and the penny dropped and I realised what was going on. I actually learnt the lesson that I needed to learn to move past this idiotic phase in my life, right? And it's a lesson I think we all have to learn if we're interested in building muscle and progressing with our bodies. And the lesson is that the harder you train, the harder you must recover. Let me say that again. The harder you train, the harder you must recover. Okay, does that make sense? Let me explain. Training is absolutely pointless if you do not recover. Okay? The point of training is to create damage in the muscle, and it's similar to digging a hole in the ground, right? So when you're training, you're digging a hole in the ground. Imagine like you've got like turf or soil or dirt or whatever, and you're digging a hole in that turf, right? Stay with me with this one because I'm going to bring it full circle, okay? So you're digging a hole in this turf through training. Now, the harder you train, the deeper you're digging that hole, okay? But now when you finish training, the focus is to stop digging the hole and to start filling that hole back in with dirt, right? And ideally, by the end of the, by the time you come to next train and dig the hole again, you've overfilled that hole a little bit, so the dirt and the soil or whatever spills out over the top. Does that make sense? So that you've got eventually you've got more soil than you started with in that particular area that represents the muscle. Yeah. So this is my primitive explanation analogy of what's called supercompensation. It's literally how we grow muscle. We do damage to the muscle in the gym, and we then recover and supercompensate and create an adaptive response to that training through our recovery. Okay, but the harder we train and the bigger the damage we do to that muscle, the more we are required to be sort of on it with our recovery, if that makes sense. Yeah. So the more volume, the more weight, the more intensity, the more sets, the more reps, the more everything that we do in the gym, the more often, the more frequency we train, the more we've got to be on it with our recovery methods, okay? And I'll explain that in a minute. I'll explain what recovery methods means in a minute, okay? But without proper recovery, you do not grow muscle. This is what I found out, right? You do not grow muscle if you do not recover properly, right? Now, everybody kind of knows this. Everybody kind of knows, oh yeah, you've got to recover, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, but nobody really takes it very seriously. Right? You've got to take your recovery as seriously, if not more seriously, as you take your training. Because otherwise, you do not grow muscle. And what's the point in being in the gym in the first place if you're not going to grow muscle? Like we're wasting our time, because if we're honest with ourselves, why are we there? Why are we in the gym? We're there to build muscle. We're there to improve the way our body looks, or the way our body moves, or the way our body feels. And if we are not achieving that goal, what's the point in going and creating the stimulus in the first place? You may as well sit on the sofa, because you're not giving yourself any benefit. So take your recovery as seriously as your training and make that time count. So you don't grow muscle if you don't recover properly. You lose your ability to dig that hole, to dig that hole as deep as you would. You know what I mean? So you lose your ability to create as much damage to the muscle, right? And then you don't fill that hole in as completely as you would. You don't just not overfill it. You just completely underfill it, if that makes sense. So you don't recover sufficiently from the damage you've done, which means that you don't grow muscle. If anything, you lose muscle, because the damage you've done is not being repaired and it's not being super compensated. So you're not growing muscle, you're losing muscle. And this is what happened to me. This is because I was doing so much damage to the muscle and I wasn't recovering. I wasn't paying any attention to my recovery whatsoever. Then I ended up losing muscle. So what do you do? What does the focus need to be? Well, first of all, before we get into the recovery and the nitty-gritty of the recovery methods and stuff like that, I want to make the point about training, and that you don't need to train every single day. You don't need to train twice a day. I personally, right now, I'm seeing some great results with the training I'm doing, and I'm just training 4, maybe 5 times a week. That's it, okay? And I'm focused as much on my recovery as I am on my training. My clients, my one-to-one guys, the guys that are doing the training mastery course, I teach all these principles in more detail that you can get at trainingmastery.net/join, which, by the way, again, it's less than a PT session to sign up to that right now. All these guys are focused as much on their recovery. They're not training twice a day. They're not training 7 days a week. They're not even training 6 days a week. They're training probably 4 days a week. 5 at a push, but you don't really need to train 5. You can train 4 and use an intelligence split. So just train hard in the sessions that you train, and don't overtrain, basically. Don't do it in the gym. Make sure that the time you're in the gym, you're training hard. Like, I'm not saying don't train hard. I'm saying train hard, but don't go in too often, So that's my little rant about training. Now, there's 3 focal points that I want to address with recovery, okay? So there's 3 ways that I think is the most important to be able to sort of, fill that hole in and help you to recover from the workouts and grow muscle and build strength and do all the other stuff, okay? The first one is kind of obvious. It's sleep, okay? Now, this has to be the first one because this is the primary method of recovery for human beings, okay? Now, everybody knows, oh yeah, it's important to sleep, blah, 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 blah. But it really, really is, right? This is the primary way that we're going to recover from not only training, but for all of the different stresses of daily life, everything, mental, emotional, chemical, physical, every kind of stress that we have, we recover and consolidate those stresses during sleep. And if your sleep sucks, your training will suck. I promise you, your training will be dog shit if your sleep is not good. Like, you might be able to grind through a couple of sessions or a week or so with pre-workouts, but that's papering over the cracks. You're not gonna have a sustainably good workout program if you don't fix your sleep. So fix your sleep. Now, I've done podcasts on sleep before. And I've got videos on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook page and Instagram, Andy Clements01. If you want to follow me on Instagram and stuff like that, then you can go and check some more information about that there. But here's a little tip. So I'm going to give you one tip for sleep, and that is to control your nighttime environment. Okay, so when the sun goes down, now this is more difficult in winter because the sun's goes down for longer in certain parts of the world, but generally speaking, when the sun goes down, try your best to avoid bright artificial lights, such as lights from screens like mobile phones or TVs or laptops, overhead lights, and replace those lights with candles or red lights. They're a much more calming spectrum that mimics the sunset, which allows us to start winding down and getting a better night's sleep and getting to sleep more easily and stopping insomnia. Than the bright artificial lights, which mimic the spectrum of light of the blue light, which is which is the midday sun. It mimics the midday sun and switches our brains and bodies on, okay? And we want to be switching them off at that time. Now, if you need to be using screens at night, then use blue light filters on the screens. On the phones, you can sort of have a play around on an iPhone or a Samsung or something, and there should be a blue light filter, like an orange hue that comes across screen that's less stimulating. I would also recommend getting some blue light blocking glasses to block any blue light coming in through the eye that may be stimulating at night if you're watching TV or anything like that. I get mine from a company called Blue Blocks. I'm not associated or affiliated with them in any way. I just think they're very good. I think they're based in Australia, and I would not be without my blue light blocking glasses before bed. So that's the first thing. There's lots of different other stuff you can do to improve your sleep, but that's probably the first thing I would start with. So the second focal point for recovery is stress, okay? Now, any external stress, well, what we have to remember, first of all, is that training is a stress, okay? Training is a controlled stress, and that's illustrated by the fact that, the analogy I used about digging that hole, right? But that's not the only stress we have. We have lots of emotional stresses and chemical stresses and all different types of stresses, right? So all these different external stresses, even if they're just emotional, digs that hole a little bit deeper, right? It makes that training session a little bit harder to recover from because the body's trying to deal with stress hormones going around the body and the immune system being lowered and all different things happening. So make your job easier to recover from them workouts by managing stress. I'm not saying remove stress. If there's an easy way to remove stress, then fine, do it, But some stresses we can't remove, so manage your responses to it. You can do that by meditating, learning how to meditate properly. I recommend following a guy called Joe Dispenza, Joe Dispenza, Dispenza. I think that's how you spell it. He's awesome. He's a doctor. He comes from America somewhere. I think it's from like Washington State or somewhere like that. And he's cool. Just go through his books, go through his courses, learn how to meditate properly, and you will manage your stress so much better, and you'll recover from your workout so much better, and you'll grow. You know what I mean? Other ways you can manage stress are by like doing journaling. So get yourself a notepad and just do a brain dump at the end of the day and just empty your mind of all that bullshit that's been swirling around in there and stressing you out all day. That's something that's helped me in the past. Just go for a walk, create some space, leave your mobile phone at home or put it on airplane mode. and go for a walk and just sort of create some space between the constant influx of a barrage of information that we're exposed to through social media and the news and all the stuff that's going on in the world, and just give yourself that space to think, and that can help to manage your stress as well. And just breathe. I always recommend start breathing through your nose rather than your mouth. Breathing through your nose is going to really chill you out a lot more. It's going to help you be more efficient with your oxygen. It's going to bias your parasympathetic or rest and digest system rather than breathing through the mouth, which is like panic breathing and makes you more stressed out. And just try and just relax the body a little bit more, and just pay attention to it, because most people don't even pay attention to this stuff. So that's a few things that you can do to start lowering your stress or start managing your stress a little bit better. Okay? So there's one more thing that I want to mention when it comes to recovery, and that is nutrition. So nutrition is, again, most people know that nutrition is massively important, but in order to recover from workouts, you can't ignore nutrition. Now, what I'm going to say about nutrition here is to eat well. Now, just because you're trying to put on muscle doesn't mean you should slip into that classic meathead bodybuilder mindset of I'm bulking, bro. You know what I mean? That's not what you want to be doing. What you want to be doing is you want to be eating intelligently. You don't want to be slipping into that fat fuck mindset, right? Now, you don't want to be going from I'm trying to get shredded to I'm just going to eat everything in sight. Like, give me as many pizzas and ice cream and fucking bullshit foods as you possibly can, because that's going to add to your internal stress. That is going to be inflammatory to the gut. It's going to be inflammatory to the digestive system, and it's going to require energy and resources that you need to recover from your workouts, to recover from your daily stresses, to recover from all the other stuff in your life, to deal with that inflammatory response in the gut. It's going to make you bloated, it's going to give you gas, it's going to give you brain fog, and it's going to cause internal stress. So eat whole foods. Do a daily fast of 12 hours. So just chop your eating window down to 12 hours to allow the digestive system to heal from the food you've thrown at it that day. I always keep my eating window to a maximum of 12 hours. If I can shorten it even more, I do. It doesn't mean I eat any less food. It doesn't mean I don't still tick all the nutritional boxes and still eat around the workouts the same way and still focus on eating to build muscle. I'm not, saying eat any less. I'm just saying give your digestive system a bit of time to heal, and that will be massively beneficial for your recovery, for your digestive health, for your mental health, for your stress levels, and for your workouts in general. And it'll help you sleep as well. If you don't eat too close to the time you go to bed, if you possibly can avoid that, then try and finish your meals at least 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed, so you're not trying to digest food in the evening while you're trying to sleep. And again, that'll help sleep, and it'll feed into all the other stuff we've been talking about. So that's a few tips to help you get on top of your recovery and help you to recover better from workouts and get harder workouts in the gym. Because when you recover properly, you can then get better workouts in when you actually do go in the gym. You can cause more damage and you can recover better, and you're therefore going to grow muscle at a much faster and easier rate. I hope that was useful, guys. I hope you found that insightful and you got some good information from it, and it gave you some good ideas of what to focus on and where to put your attention when you're trying to go about this muscle building stuff. If you enjoyed that podcast and you feel like somebody else should listen to it, then send it to them, send them into a private message or tell them about it in person or whatever. Or what would be really helpful is if you'd screenshot this podcast, put it on your Instagram story and tag me in it at AndyClements01, and I'll repost everybody that tags me in that for any of the podcasts that I do, and let's spread the message. Let's get people listening to some good quality information, because there's a lot of shit out there, let's be honest, right? So I hope that was useful, guys. If you want to check out the Training Mastery course that goes into all this stuff about training, about nutrition, about health, about sleep, about everything in as much detail as possible. Like I said before, it's only £37 right now, which is less than the cost of a single hour PT session with me. So head over to trainingmastery.net trainingmastery.net/join. That's trainingmastery.net/join. And you can get it before the price goes up, because the price will be going up soon, at a low price, the lowest price it will ever be, of £37. Hopefully that was useful, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will speak to you next time on the Muscle Building Mastery podcast. If you're ready to stop wasting time in the gym and start mastering the skill of muscle building, go check out www.musclebuildingmastery.net to download your free 6-week muscle building workout plan. I have specifically formulated this workout plan to take you through the 3 stages of mastering your body, layering on a more advanced training methodology each week as you progress. That means that regardless of where you are with your training right now, this plan will push you forward and help you stack on more muscle and strength in just 6 weeks. So head to www.musclebuildingmastery.net now to grab your free 6-week workout plan.